Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video to talk about the updates of the Cleveland Browns Stadium situation. Um, so we've been a little lacking some of the stadium contents this offseason, but we will be covering more as the offseason uh as we get more into the off season, because obviously this is the best time for when we hear updates about specific team stadium situation. We have not covered the Redskins Commander stadium situation. I will be covering that in a future video. There's also the Bronco stadium situation we got to cover because there's some early developments there. I haven't really heard anything new about the Bear Stadium situation, but we will look into that as that comes out. Um, but those are mostly the teams that I have my eye on right now for stadium situations. Obviously the Bills, which I'm pretty much familiar with the Bills area. Obviously, I haven't really covered that much there because it's pretty much a done deal on what they're doing with that. But that's supposed to be built. Well, I mean, it's being built right now. I mean, it's supposed to be out like within the next year. So I'll probably cover that briefly, but there's not, the only thing I'm mad about with the Bills Stadium is that we got screwed over and we're basically on the hook for something we shouldn't be on the hook for as taxpayers. But nonetheless, the Cleveland Browns Stadium situation is the most intriguing one of them all because of the situation that's going around with it. Now, I made a video a year ago, and I made a bold prediction talking about which you can go check that video. That was from a year ago, but feel free to check it out. I talked about the Bears and the Browns Stadium specifically in their situations, and I had predicted that during the season, which would have been last season, that we were going to get an announcement that the city slash the owner were going to be suing each other because of the Art Modell rule, which I was right about. I predicted that. That did get announced during the season, obviously. The city announced that they were going to build a stadium in Brook Park, sandbagging the Haslams from making the announcement themselves, so they could spin the narrative in their favor, which was a good move by their part. But the Art Modell rule is a very intriguing thing. So everybody doesn't know about the Art Modell rule. Basically, the Art Modell rule basically is anytime there is a state, anytime there's basically a state tax for a stadium, my understanding is that that they have to stay there basically, and they have to have like 6 months notifications if they want to move, to allow a local resident to basically get the rights to owning the team. And obviously there's obviously a lot more to it than just that, but that's kind of the basic broad of it, of the situation for the stadium, because of the whole Cleveland leaving for Baltimore. When Cleveland decided to leave for Baltimore, that led to a lot of situations where they basically wanted the Ravens basically, or that's basically how the Ravens were created. The Ravens were created because of Art Modell decided to leave the team even though he was under a lease. He broke the lease illegally. And so the Browns eventually sued, and of course they were granted eventually an expansion team under the same name and team history. So they were able to keep the team history. Um, they were able to keep the team history of the Cleveland Browns with this new expansion team. And the Baltimore Ravens, which that would eventually be what the Cleveland Browns were called from the Art Modell team. Um, they basically were able to keep the existing draft picks and all that stuff and the coaches and, the current roster. But they were considered a new team, new team history and everything. Just didn't have an expansion draft because they didn't really need it because they were, you know, continuing from where the Browns left off. Um, the ironic thing about this is that the only person who has benefited from this rule, this Art Modell rule, since it was created in 1996, was the Haslams. The Haslams basically bought the Columbus Crew. That was the name, I guess, of this soccer team. It was called the Columbus Crew, and I did get the year wrong. It was in 2015. Some Houston, or some guy, the original owner of or one of the whoever the current owner was at that point, he wanted to move it to Houston Texans. But the Art Modell basically stopped him in his tracks from being able to move it. And because of that, Haslam was able to come in and buy it, the Columbus Crew. So that's the only time this has applied. Now, again, this rule was created for the Cleveland Browns specifically, but it's a state law, so it can actually apply to any sports team in Ohio. It doesn't necessarily have to apply to the Cleveland Browns. But the ironic thing, again, is the Haslams are the ones that benefited from the Art Modell rule because, again, they were the ones that were able to buy it, by the Columbus Crew. Now, again, they never actually ruled in that case. That case was not, officially ruled on. But because the soccer team basically, your league was scared or whatever, and so they ended up settling it, so they were able to sell it to them, I guess. But again, that's the only time it's ever really been tested, but it never really went to court, at least that far. So that's kind of the whole status with the tax thing. So again, the official language, I got the official, I'll put the official language of it in the description because there's a lot of elements to it. But I have gotten into it before, but basically, obviously we know the city of Cleveland sued. Well, first the Cleveland Browns sued, then the city countersued with their own thing. Now Ohio wants to get it in state court because they feel they have jurisdiction. Obviously, the Haslams want to get it into federal court because obviously federal court would give more of the owners an advantage. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll win, but federal would be better than state in this situation for them. Because obviously, state officials might, since a lot of them probably know and are aware of what happened to the Browns in 96, they probably wouldn't want their team to leave again. Now, again, the situation with the Cleveland Browns possibly moving out of Cleveland isn't necessarily the same situation as it would be in Baltimore. Obviously, they're moving to literally the next city over from Cleveland, so they're not actually leaving Cleveland. Well, they're not leaving Ohio, I should say, but they're not really leaving Cleveland in the sense of they're only leaving the next city over. So they're literally going to be, Brook Park is literally right next to Cleveland. So that's one of the sense. Well, there are multiple football stadiums that are doing this. The Cowboys are doing this. The Bills have been doing this since 1970. Obviously, the New York Jets and the New York Giants actually live in New Jersey. So a lot of people look at this as like, well, look at all these other football teams that are doing it. So why can't they do it in Cleveland? Well, Cleveland, again, has a different situation because, again, they have a state law. Okay. They have a state law that basically says that if you accept tax supported facilities for your games, that an owner cannot move the team. And it doesn't matter that it isn't like a state. It doesn't matter if it's to the next city or the next state. It doesn't matter. And so that's where the lawsuit is going. Ironically enough, I guess the House actually approved funding for the Cleveland Browns to move to Brook Park, which is really fucking interesting when you think about it, since, again, we're looking at a situation where it's like you're just going to let them move even though you have this law in the books. Now, their state Senate still has to meet in June to approve the move, but currently they're being sued, so I'm not exactly sure how they would be able to start construction if they're currently being sued to stop them from moving right now with the Art Modell Law. So I'm not exactly sure how the politicians are going to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to, and again, I think it's kind of ridiculous that because I'm going to only imagine that it's mostly Republicans that approved this funding for them, but again, it's like you're gonna give a billionaire again. I don't fucking understand why so many people are, not everybody, majority of people don't like this idea, but there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, we want them to build this thing, and I'm like, why the fuck would you want to give a billionaire more money that he can pay himself? Okay? Like, what are you dum-dums fucking thinking? He is taking your fucking money and he is raising the prices of those fucking stadiums. Double. Okay? They are going to be double the fucking price. You will not be able to afford it. You will not be able to afford those goddamn ticket prices. There's no benefit. I've seen the situation for the Buffalo Bills. We are not getting benefits from the stadium deal that we got. We got fucked. Okay, by the city. Okay, they are paying. We are going. Our county, my county, is paying for that stadium for the next 20 plus years. Okay, $1 billion project that the Pagulas could pay themselves. Okay, the billionaires don't need more welfare handouts. I view it as welfare handouts because they can pay for their own goddamn stadiums. We, working class people, most working class people, or people that have jobs or people that make ends meet, you are paying for that. And that's why I don't understand when I see people discuss this whole Cleveland Brown situation. I see some people like, oh, the mistake on the lake, which is dumb, by the way. It is not the mistake on the lake, okay? It's been there since the 40s. The Browns have been there since the damn 40s. I've seen people say that. I'm like, why the fuck would you be okay with the prices going up when the stadium opens up there? And, you be okay with that. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why you think a billionaire shouldn't pay it for himself. My whole stance with this, and again, I really hope the court rules in the city's favor, because I don't think the city's going to back down. Like, the county has literally said they're not giving any funding from their end. Okay? They're not giving any funding from their end. Okay? Now, the Haslams have said that there would possibly be a plan B if the Senate doesn't approve the $1 billion or whatever. But again, you're still tangled up in court over the Art Modell rule. Which again, that's why I'm wondering, like, how are they going to be able to approve this deal without, not going with not going through the courts, because they're already currently being sued to stop them from doing this. So I don't even understand. But again, that is one of the updates, is that in June, the state has to hear the case about if they're going to grant $1 billion grant for this Brook Park Stadium deal, which again, I just don't understand it. And again, obviously, it's taking away the elements because again, it's not going to be outdoors, which again, I don't like that. I think again, football stadiums are made to be built in the football stadiums are made to be built in the element. Okay, they should not be in domes. All right, and they're like, oh, we can get a Super Bowl, we can get this. You're taking away the fan experience. I don't fucking care. That's why I love Green Bay. Will never, because everyone knows I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. We never have to fucking worry about the Green Bay Packers losing their stadium. We never have to worry about there being a fucking dome or anything like that. The Packers will always have Lambeau Field. It's going to be a Lambeau Field. It's not going to be some bank stadium or some sponsor stadium or whatever. It's Lambeau Field. It's named after an actual person that founded the team. Okay? Someone who's actually important. Okay? That's what stadiums should be named after. They should not be named after companies and shit like that. Okay? Again, more, corporate greed again. Okay? Taking the element of football out of the NFL, which is what I really hate about the NFL right now. Is there is no freedom and shit like that. It's all corporation and all that. It's just getting more corporate and corporate. It's more corporate greed than anything else now. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting because of this what they're gonna do with the tax cut thing. And again, I was saying, like, I was just saying this is like, I know Ohio, and again, the situation more with Illinois is going to be a lot different when we cover the Bears situation, because obviously Illinois is more Democratic leaning compared to the state of Ohio, which is more Republican leaning. But Cleveland specifically is more Democrat when I was doing some research on this, and that's why the county that Cleveland is in said they're not going to give any funding for it because they're like, we don't have the funding for it. And they come up with, housing, affordable housing, and, food stuff for kids and stuff like that, which again is, that's really what stuff should be going towards instead of these $1 billion projects for billionaires, giving them grants and shit like that. It's ridiculous. They have this kind of money. If Haslam is so hell-bent on having Brook Park as his stadium, he should build it his own goddamn self. Plain and simple. He wants to build the stadium himself. He wants to pony up the money to build the damn fucking stadium. Let him fucking build the damn stadium with his own money. Okay? He has the money. Don't give me this bullshit that he don't have the fucking money. He has the money. Okay? All right, to build that stadium himself the way he wants to build it. And that's the goddamn problem. Until the cities actually get fucking backbone, they actually get backbone and not be bullied by these owners. They're gonna threaten, oh, we might leave or something, which they're not. Cleveland's in a situation where they're not gonna leave because they have the Art Modell rule. But I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, they're not gonna leave, but yet you let them bully you anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like, they let them bully them anyways into 2 point, the house people approved it, I guess, like in February. Like, you're letting themselves bully you. Why are you giving this guy the power? Why are you giving Haslam the power? When you have the power, you have the Art Modell Law. You control the narrative, but you're not doing that. You're letting him roll over you. I do not like where this is going, but again, I don't know what the update on the court case is right now because they haven't really said anything yet about it that has been out to the public at least. So that's going to be one of the issues is like, well, how are they going to be able to get away with that with, the lawsuit going on for the Art Modell rule, where they might, Haslam, would have to force to sell the team to a local Ohio business owner. And a lot of people, and that's another thing too, I think a lot of people are underestimating that, oh, well, they're not going to have a local business person to sell the team to. May I remind you that there's no statute of who can actually buy the team. They just have to be a local resident within Cleveland. Do you not get the fact that there are multiple people throughout the United States that could easily move in to Cleveland and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll buy a house in Cleveland just so I can say I'm considered a local resident now. And then boom, there you go. Billionaire now can buy the Cleveland Browns. Okay? I think a lot of people are really underestimating that because there is no statute in the actual writing of the Art Modell Law saying that, well, they had to be a local Cleveland residence for like 5-10 years or whatever. It doesn't say that. It just says you have to be a local business guy within Cleveland. So all a billionaire would have to do is buy a house in Cleveland, Ohio, and then boom, they can say that they're a local business resident, a billionaire, and then buy the team. Okay? So, because I think a lot of people are saying, oh, there's going to be no billionaire that would want to buy that team, but no, I guarantee you there would be a lot of people that would want to buy the Cleveland Browns. They're worth a lot of money. Okay. So, no, like if it actually came down to that though, I'm just saying if that hypothetically, which I don't think that's going to come down to that because I think there's a lot of, maneuvering that's going on right now behind the scenes that we don't know about. But the idea that people say that there would be no local business owner that could buy the Browns right now because of how much they would cost, that's such malarkey right now. Because again, there is no rule at how many years do you have to be a local Cleveland residence to buy that team under the Art Modell rule. There's no rule, okay, of you having to be a resident for like 10 years or whatever. Okay? So all you'd have to do is buy a house in Cleveland and then boom, you're now considered a local residence. And you would apply for the Art Modell rule, okay, for buying the team. Okay? So that is a scenario that could happen, but I don't think it will happen. But I'm just saying that people that don't think that there would be anyone that would step up to buy the Browns, okay, that's just crazy talk right there. Overall, I think there's going to be a lot of, in terms of what my prediction is right now, because obviously I was pretty accurate on my prediction last year on what's going to happen with the Cleveland Browns. I think there's going to be a lot of maneuvering. I'm not sure if the state will approve it or not. I'm hopeful that they don't approve it, but I do think it might get through because, again, the senators, I think, do dominate Republican. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to see this situation happen. But again, there might be a holdup because of the lawsuit that is currently going on with the city, and the Art Modell rule, which might nullify them being able to start anything because of judicial review, obviously. And that's really the only thing you can hope for. I just think it's an unfortunate situation that a lot of the local Browns or local Cleveland residents that's going to have to deal with this, because obviously it's going to have a lot of loss of jobs, and it's obviously going to hurt the little man the most because they'll be on the hook more than anybody else. And that's what the most ridiculous thing is with all these taxpayer dollars that are going out to the public when it should be the billionaires that are paying for it. But yeah, that's about it, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the situation with the Cleveland Browns Stadium. Comment, rate, if you think this video might be, please subscribe, hit the notification bell for latest content. Thank you. And that's about it, guys. I am the Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace.